This is Tales from the Pros, where business leaders and influencers share their stories of inspiration, struggles, and successes. And I'm your host, Michael Giorgio. Hey everyone, welcome to Tales from the Pros. And this is Michael Giorgio, your host and co-founder of Imaginovation. My wonderful guest with me here today is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media, which is the fastest growing marketing consultancy in the US, employing over 150 employees and has serviced over 2,000 brands of all sizes. This serial entrepreneur and visionary was named the International Business Awards Entrepreneur of the Year in the field of advertising, marketing, and PR. And as a serial entrepreneur and marketing expert, he is a sought-after thought leader in the world of digital marketing, entrepreneurship, sales, and business. And he is also the recipient of numerous honors, including Forbes 30 Under 30, CSQ 40 Under 40, and Inc. magazine's top 25 marketing influencers, amongst many others. Please welcome Erik Huberman. Erik, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So with this podcast, I really started it as to really understand the stories of successful thought leaders and business leaders around the world. And I know you have a really interesting story behind Hawke Media and how you got to where you are today. So I guess first and foremost, let's start there. What was kind of your story of how you got to where you are today? And how did your career in the whole, marketing arena begin?
Yeah, well, in college, I made fun of marketing majors. So I was like, oh, what do you do? Draw pretty pictures. Like, it was just never really my thing. And got out and went into real estate exactly a week before the entire banking industry collapsed in 2008. And so I had to pivot to look at other things. And that's when I started working on online businesses. I started an online music company. And you quickly realize that, especially with digital businesses, like, marketing's the lifeblood. We even saw it a lot with COVID, where up until this whole digital revolution, marketing was the first thing to go in a recession or a panic. Like, they're like, we'll cut all our marketing. We can just get foot traffic for now and bear with it. The problem is now that marketing is your foot traffic. So when I started building these online businesses, I realized that early on, you have to focus on how you're going to get people in. Like, I also built an activewear brand, a t-shirt company before starting Hawke. So I had 3 different online businesses, and all of them, it was like, it wasn't hard to manufacture a t-shirt. It wasn't hard to manufacture activewear. What was hard is to get people to buy it. And when you're talking about digital, the way to get people to buy things is through marketing. And so I became very focused on how to market things. And that's when I grew to love it, because I found it to be the hardest part of the pie. And to me, I want to focus on the hardest piece, because then I can win. Like, if I'm just focusing on, and not to diminish anyone that's really good at manufacturing a t-shirt, but I knew I could cover that and kind of at least get baseline pretty well. But marketing, that's where I saw a lot of people winning. And so I started focusing on it as I built those online businesses.
And so did you see like at the time that you started it, did you see there was a big demand of, creating a marketing agency? Because I think I've kind of dabbled in that area as well, because I started a technology and app development company, and that's also saturated. So did you feel like you were going into a saturated arena, or were you just like, there's demand here, I need to jump in quickly?
It wasn't about demand or the saturation. It was about that everybody that was doing it wrong. And that's really what started it. Was everyone hates agencies. Like, it's just, everyone's dealt with bad agencies. It's par for the course. It's amazing how many snake oil salesmen there are out there. It's amazing how much bullshit there is. And so that's where it came from, was like, God, like, I literally was like 99% of agencies that I talk to really don't know anything about marketing. They just put a website up and pitch themselves as a marketer. And the few that are good quickly only want to work with big companies, which means the entire lower and middle market get ignored by good agencies, which means they get all the bullshit, and which means that they have a hard time getting out of the lower and middle market up into the big game. So that's where the thesis came from. It's just like, we should create accessibility to great marketing, that we should be the best at what we do and compete with Omnicom and WPP and the big holding companies, but we should do it in a cost efficient way that's also like, that's super approachable and nimble and flexible. That's what we've leaned on for the past 7 years, is the idea of being accessible and great, and that combination that doesn't really exist in our market.
Yeah, you're right, man. I know, like I said before, with just building a marketing agency in the past, and now we moved to more of a tech company. We just build apps, and I can tell you that there's a huge it's a crazy industry in terms of agencies, because it's just there's a lot of people that claim that they're good agencies, that their work is good, that their people are good, but it's not true. It's crazy. It's like there's such a lack of trust, and it makes it harder to sell. So for you, it seems like you guys did something. You proved your quality. You did things differently than all your competitors.
Yeah, and I had enough credibility to start. Really, that was a big part of it. Is I built and sold 2 e-com businesses, so I had enough credibility to get my first initial clients, because they're like, "Oh, you know what you're doing." And then from there, we started growing because we did good work, and our clients started growing and talking about us, et cetera, and that just picked up.
Yeah. Was there any particular service at Hawke Media that you've noticed that essentially really skyrocketed? Was there more SEO, or was it content marketing, social
That's
media?
the fallacy. It's funny. It's a common question, so
Yeah.
but the fallacy is that there's like some silver bullet that skyrockets, that drives everything. And actually, what has set us apart, that has made us the best at what we do, is that we do all of these different things that complement each other. So we're not going to let someone just run Facebook ads when they don't have an email drip campaign set up to actually convert those. We're not going to, we're going to push people into SMS because it's now performing 10 times better than email is. So we're going to have them do both. We're going to look at search as the moment you've scaled Facebook on a lifestyle brand, because at some point search starts to become compelling because you've built a brand. We're going to look at influencer marketing to complement that. We're going to look at, the quality of your creative and see if we need to do some production work or creative work. We're going to make sure your website site speed's working. We're going to make sure the whole funnel is working, and so that because it all works together. It's not about just doing Facebook right, which is the fallacy that most shitty marketers think it's about, is it's one thing. And so that's what when people ask what separates you, it's that we look at the full funnel. We constantly are ebbing and flowing where the low hanging fruit is for a company.
Yeah, because everything really is integrated. It's not one thing. And that's why I wanted to ask that, because I figured for you guys, I noticed that from just doing the research I did, it seems like you do everything well, and everything really is integrated. It's not just about one thing. And people make that mistake all the time.
And it's the most common question I think I get now is like, well, what are you best at? It's like, no, you're missing the point. Like we are a top 10 partner to Facebook, a top 10 partner to Google, the #1 partner to Klaviyo, a top partner to Shopify. Like the list goes on. We're really good at what we do in multiple categories. We have the guy that runs our Amazon business sold 2 Amazon businesses before joining us to build out an Amazon service side. So like we have really good talent across the board, or we don't offer it. Like we don't do PR, we don't do experiential, not something we've gotten into because we don't know how we're going to do it differently. But everything else that we find scalable and repeatable, that we can really drive growth for companies, we do.
Yeah. And I've noticed, Eric, with especially agencies and even I think in business in general, whether it's B2B, B2C, or it's a product company or service company, I know for a service company, I know just from my experience doing it for about a decade, it's not easy to scale it. And that's just my opinion. I'm sure everyone has their own, but I know it's difficult to scale. What did you do to help you guys to scale? Because scaling is not easy, right? So how did you really scale your company? Was it just, did you have any mentors? Did you have certain processes that you had to execute and implement? What was it like to scale the business?
And I hate to say it because it's a little too fluffy, but I think mindset's a big part, because what you just said is what many people have said to me. And I've always kind of looked at them sideways. Like, what are you talking about? Accenture has 400,000 people, has only been around 30 years. Like everything's hard. So the idea of hard, is it hard to scale a service business? Yeah, it's hard to scale any business. There's difficult things you're going to deal with, and there's bullshit every day. That's running a business. Welcome to the party. But,
exactly.
But I always looked at Deloitte, EY, the big accounting firms more than anything else, and went, they've got hundreds of thousands of people each. So like, there's definitely a way to scale a service business. Like that's when people say that, I'm like, you just are repeating cliches that have been repeated. I've heard that for a decade too.
So have I. Yeah.
Really hard business to scale. I'm like, okay, so everything's fucking hard. But I actually prefer it because I've bootstrapped this company to 200 people. I still own the whole thing with my business partner, and versus scaling an e-com brand where you have to get financing, you need working capital, you need a lot of other things. I'd much prefer to grow off my own accord. And yeah, is it volatile because all our product are our people and you're dealing with people's emotions? Absolutely. But there's other problems with other businesses. Apple's dealing with trade wars with China and all their stores getting shut down for COVID. We're all dealing with something. So to me, it's all hard. And so, again, I hate to be, as I said, fluffy about it, but
no, of course.
And it is the mindset though. It's like, like I used to drive my team crazy with the idea of like, we're going to be $100 million revenue business. So like when my recruiting team would tell me, hey, we're having trouble filling these 3 roles. I'm like, well, those 3 roles are going to be 30 in 5 years. So figure it the fuck out, because we're not even close to where we should be hitting any limitations right now. So it's like that kind of, cadence. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't that harsh with them, but that's kind of the message I was sending, was like, we shouldn't be dealing with any problems because we're only 10% of the way to where we're supposed to be. And then I'm going to say that again. I'm going to be like, now we're only 10% to $1 billion. We got to keep going. So that's where we're at right now. This year we'll probably, last year we did about 23 million. This year we'll be between like 35 and 40, I'd say, in terms of net revenue. Gross, we did like 180 million last year.
Wow.
And so knowing that, it's like, okay, so we're making progress towards that. And that mindset of like, yeah, we should be at 100 million. We're going to get there. And then figuring out what's blocking us. And we meet with our executive team now. So what was blocking me before was I didn't have an executive team. I didn't have enough people to delegate to look at the different problems of the business and focus on the different silos.
There you go. Yeah.
So then we built the executive team. So now it's working with that team, figuring out now what's your limitations? Why aren't we retaining clients better? Why aren't we selling new ones? Where are the problems and the inconsistencies in the business that can allow us to keep scaling?
Yeah. And, the thing is like, I've just noticed like with marketing agencies, there's a lot of, it really is about I think this is with most companies, but it's a lot about recurring revenue. So you do like a 12-month contract with all your clients, or 24-month contract, or is it pretty typical?
Month to month, a la carte. Super flexible. That's the whole idea, is accessibility. So like the more accessible we can make it, the better. So we try to keep our costs, or our prices as low as we can service well. So it's always that balance of, we're very disciplined about our margins. We don't try to maximize our margins. We don't charge people what we can. We charge what we need to keep our margins consistent. And so we run a business that's profitable and will survive and has done well, even through COVID, did great. So like that part is important, because like if we're gone, then it doesn't help anyone. But at the same time, we try to keep everything cost effective, flexible, so that it's easy for companies to work with us.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love the month to month. That's cool. And for on a lead gen perspective, Erik, how did you and your team, your sales team, your marketing team, how did you guys attract the brands that you have worked with? Did they come to you just all through inbound, or do you kind of go after them? Did it just happen naturally over time? What was it like?
For a long time, it was all inbound, and then we started building a sales team. Then we started building partnerships and referral partnerships, and then we started spending on advertising, and then the sales team started getting their building out their own little teams with maybe some prospecting, and then we built out a full prospecting team. And it's a constant evolving thing. Like that's the thing, is if you want to grow, you can't just keep doing the same thing, nor can you take like our playbook and apply it to a 10-person agency. Like we now have a 30-something person sales team, including outbound SDRs and people that are closing, and then a full 4-person partnership team. So developing tons of ongoing channel partnerships with different software companies and other marketing partners, et cetera. And yeah, it's constant firing on all different cylinders. We also do a ton of events of our own. So we have in April 8th, we have the Brandies coming up, which is like the Oscars for brands. We have e-commerce week LA that we partnered with the city of LA on. We launched our first one last October, had 7,500 people attend. We have our book coming out later this year. We have my podcast, Hawke Talk, that is attracting a lot of people. So it's just a constant, what else should we be doing? We're going to be announcing a really big agency partnership and joint venture to launch a new agency soon, and like a partnership agency. So like all sorts of things like that we're just constantly moving to grow.
That's so cool, man. I'm really happy for you. That's awesome. You guys have seen a lot of success. That's great. Always great to hear. I love hearing those stories. So, I want to backtrack a little bit, Erik. So for me, I love business storytelling, and part of that is understanding struggles. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, you just said, man, this shit ain't easy, and it's not. I know, none of it's easy. It's hard to grow any type of business, and to allow it to thrive. It's going to come. A lot of obstacles and challenges are going to come naturally within your business and even externally. Did you have any certain moments in your entrepreneurial journey in building Hawke Media where you knew that, man, this is really hard? Like, how am I going to overcome this? Were there some times where it was just very, very tough for you?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, it's a roller coaster. So, we went through 2018 and 19. We made less money than 2017 in profit, and we doubled. And it was like, we were grinding to try to build out our infrastructure. And we told ourselves, one side of me is going, it's cool, we're investing in the company, we're building out infrastructure. The other side of me is like, are we going to get above water here? Like, are we going to, we with how little profit we were making, it's like, we're not funded. It gets hard to survive and it gets tight. And so I spent months. We would make money like 2 days before payroll to pay payroll. And we always had some fail safes. Don't get me wrong. We weren't that flippant, but like it was tight and I'm talking 6 months, 7, 9 months, something like that. I don't even remember anymore. So yeah, there's times like that. There's big, everybody at certain stage gets sued. And the first time that paperwork comes in,
oh yeah,
out. What do I do? Oh my God. And then you realize that this is just doing business and what people fucking do, and that lawyers are in. So there's that. There's, we went through ebbs and flows in our culture where there's times when people seem to be loving what a lot of churn and employment and, employees kind of fleeing. And so it just is a constant moving target to try to build something great. You can never rest on your laurels. It's never done.
Yeah.
Again, that's the thing. It's like, you have to get comfortable with that as a business owner. I hear so many entrepreneurs talk about the stresses and the how much of a headache and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, just get the emotion out of it. You're running a business. You chose to do this. I have a really big problem with victim complex of like, no one fucking made you an entrepreneur. You did it yourself. So like, if you're going to choose to start a business, take a deep breath, come to terms that you're going to be dealing with the biggest problems of the business. And as the business gets bigger, those problems are going to get bigger. You're going to end up dealing with shit that you're like, what? Like, the bigger the company, the bigger the target. So
yeah, man,
go with a lot of crazy shit. Get used to it. Like if you're one of you make it to being one of the biggest companies in the world and governments are coming after you. Just think about it that way. So you've got to remember that there is no finish line. And so as long as and for me at least, once I came to terms with that idea of like, it's always going to be something, which is the line my partner and I talk about all the time. Now when shit comes up, it's like, yeah, this is expected. Let's fix it or do something about it. And if we can't do either, let's move on. Like, it's that simple. And it really is not.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm big on this. I know so many entrepreneurs, even people I work with, that they act like they're victims. It's crazy. Like they're like, oh, but this is happening. Oh, we're getting sued again. I'm just like, dude, like, this is the way it is. Welcome to business, man. You're going to get sued. You're going to have to let people go. You're going to have to rehire people. You're going to have to rescale. You're going to have times where you're not going to have a lot of money in the bank. You got to figure out other ways to make payroll. I mean, it's just how it is. It's part and parcels of the game, right?
Yeah. Because if you're not being aggressive enough that you have just cash sitting in the bank, you're probably going to lose your business anyways because you're not being aggressive enough. So there's like, it's always this crazy balancing act. But like, if you can't get in the mindset, it'd be kind of like being like an NBA player, and every time the other team scored, freaking out and throwing a temper tantrum and stressing out about the fact that they just scored. Like, you're not going to last long as an NBA player. Like, it's just, you got to focus on your own game, do what you can do, and keep playing. And that's when. And then if you can have fun with that and get over all the downside, that's when it is really fun. Like, I like being an entrepreneur. I've been offered to sell Hawke for more than I'd ever need to live the rest of my life and my grandkids. Like, we're there. We're already in a good spot that like I've had the offer in hand. I've had several LOIs be like, we're going to buy this, and I could go put the money in some conservative real estate and do whatever the fuck I want the rest of my life. It's fun. I'm going to stick this out. Like, it's not about, and by the way, it's not because I think I'm going to get more next year or some sort of greedy side of it. No, greedy side of it. It's more
because
like,
you love it. You love it.
Yeah. And it's, what the hell else am I going to do? Like, even right now, as we speak, I'm staying in the mountains for a month. I wake up every morning early. I go snowboarding for an hour and a half, and then I work 12 hours, so I'm still working my ass off, but I'm also snowboarding an hour and a half every day. And like, these kind of things that like, I like this, because would I want to just snowboard all day every day and not work? No. But I want to work all day without the balance? No. And so my partner and I early on determined the idea of like, let's just assume we're going to do this for the next 30 years. How does this need to look for that to make sense? And we made it a balance. And that balance, this is actually a really interesting theory. I got it from a guy named Robert Glazer, who runs a company called Acceleration Partners. He pays his employees $500 to take a week vacation every year, and they're not allowed to answer their phone or their email. As long as they don't do either, they get $500.
That's awesome.
This is not just it's a cool boss thing to do, but it's not just about like getting them to take a vacation. It actually also forces the rest of the team to actually find a way for them not to be a key point of failure. That person, if it's a developer or whatever it is, people have to make up for their work. They're gone. So you have to make sure that you have things handled while they're gone. And we've not done that, but we've done similar things to make sure that there shouldn't be any key point of failure in your business, because that's where stress is. When that one person is the only person that can handle XYZ disappears, that's a problem. So my partner and I are actually at the point now that we're hoping by mid this year, we both want to be obsolete in our business. This company needs to be growing and building and improving without him or I doing anything. And we're getting there. We have a really good exec team, but we're trying to do that, not because either of us want to duck out, but because then I can truly focus on expanding and growing the business and focus on bigger picture things and not worry about what's happening day to day. And that allows me to really scale this thing.
Have you guys ever, I know this is a little bit of a one-off question, but just curious, have you guys ever thought about building your own product as well internally for Hawke Media, or just service-based?
I mean, so if it was a tech product, the problem is we're not developers. So like we have built our own proprietary technology, but I don't, could we find an amazing developer at some point that could make it ready for prime time and use as an outside facing? Sure. Yeah. We're looking at that. In terms of products like, e-commerce products, things like that, I like being really good at marketing. I don't want to deal with supply chain. I've done it. I don't want to deal with supply chain and manufacturing and building a great product. And you need a great product person to build a good company. The product has to be amazing. And so I think a lot of these agencies I see that are flippant about it and just like develop their own product, it's a distraction. It's never going to be that big. I don't think it's that worthwhile. And so what we do is actually partner with people. We have a venture fund. We do a lot of investing. So we can become the financial and marketing partner, but not do it ourselves.
Right. Oh, that's great. And I always wonder, like, what do you think the future of agencies will be like? And I do have a question about the future of marketing, but more of the future of agencies. Do you think it ever will it ever will be obsolete? Do you think it's just going to change and transform like every other industry? What do you think agencies are going to go?
Yeah, I think it'll just change and transform because, I think marketing is always going to need to be creative.
I agree.
And even with AI tools and things like that, if everybody starts using the same tool and it democratizes and it's AI, then great for commodities. But if you're building any type of brand, it's not going to do shit for you. So I think it's going to be a very long time before consultancies and agencies go away because someone's always going to look to someone else for expertise. I think, who knows? It's hard to picture what happens when AI surpasses human intelligence, and who knows what the fuck is going to happen there. But it will be the last to go is kind of the good news. Like I saw this was a reality in terms of like the way I look at the world that happened, frankly, during COVID, where I'm looking at like, oh my God, is my whole business going to fall apart? And then you realize we are all in this together, and it's actually more of like a relative situation when it comes to our economy and the way things work, where it's like, even as long as you are, this is just the like harsh truth about human nature, as long as you're better off than the majority of the rest, you're going to be fine. And so if, being a consultant, more than a lot of people on a specific expertise, it'll take a long time to replace with technology, you're going to be fine. Because if you get to the point that you're being replaced, everyone's being replaced, and we have to rework a thing called capitalism. So I don't really stress about it because it's more of like a dystopian kind of thing. But it's that may happen. That jobs will be worthless and capitalism will be worthless because machines will handle everything for us. And all we have to do is go snowboarding all day. We might get to a point where we don't need people to be fucking making advances because machines are advancing faster than people could anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Oh,
who knows?
Crazy. Yeah, man, it's crazy where the world is going. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but all you can do is stay hopeful and just keep moving forward, Yeah,
and I just, again, there's no use in stressing over the unknown or the uncontrollable. Like, who the fuck knows where it's going? But for now, it's not going to change for a long time. I don't think, might not be in my, in the next 20 years, I'm not worried about my business.
I don't worry about things that are outside my control. As simple as that. It's wasted energy,
Yep.
But yeah, so going back to my other question. So where do you see like the future of digital marketing? Do you think there's going to be, I know AI obviously is kind of already in it, but do you see anything kind of just, evolving exponentially in regards to maybe SEO? I know Google's always changing. I love talking SEO, but
no, I think, listen, voice search is going to be a thing. So like Google Home and Alexa and all that. We invested in a company called Instramatic that does voice advertising. So you can actually talk to the advertisement, and it's kind of, for lack of a better word, it's choose your own adventure, because depending on what you say to it, it chooses how to advertise to you. So cool. That's super compelling. That's now becoming video too, which I think is really interesting. SMS has been skyrocketing. So that's the best investment we've made so far, is in an SMS platform called PostScript. It's now the #1 partner to Shopify. So they've been crushing it. What else is it? AR will, I think, start to play real, in the next 5 years will be real. And AR is going to change a lot when you have an overlay on the world, like marketing and advertising and how that's going to work is going to be super interesting, Minority Report style. And then VR is a little too isolating still. I have an Oculus and it's fun for a little while. And then you're kind of just sitting by yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see because Oculus is just sold out constantly of their headsets, but even with the new one. But so it's getting traction, which is always interesting because then there's a market to address. But yeah, I'm not sure where that's going. As you said, AI and machine learning is continuing to advance more and more. We invest in a company called Junction AI that can now actually digest the creative we're going to use in an advertising and give us pointers on which creative to use before we have to go spend money against it to test it. So it's actually saving our clients money by running it through this and making sure that we are picking the right creative to go out the gate with. So that's super interesting. That's a small part of the solution that creates, but if you can actually, before putting things into the real world, test them without doing what do you call it? Kind of getting a user group together, which is biased and has problems of its own, but truly getting a machine to say this will perform better based on an insane amount of metrics. That's interesting. So I think, the use of machines is going to increase. I think AR is going to increase. I think people are going to find different ways to communicate. Clubhouse is another really interesting platform. As we've been all stuck inside, it's the closest you can get to going to a big conference and hearing panels, meeting people and all that. So there's, I think, always going to be interesting innovations coming out. But I think the other key is to chase shiny objects because shit takes years. Innovation happens fast, adoption doesn't.
I love that.
So.
No, that's great. I love that quote, actually. And do you think, what are your thoughts on Google and SEO? How do you think things are going there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, they're going to Google's trying to make it that SEO is not a thing. That's part of their challenge is like, they don't want you to be able to optimize for their search. They want you to show up because you should. So, and now they're just rewarding people for doing the right things, good content on your site, good site speed, things like that. I think, I've never been one to want to game those kind of systems because I think it's not scalable. That's not how you build a business. Build a business with a good product and do scalable marketing is what I always focus on. And so with SEO, which we do have a great service for SEO, it's more focusing on, hey, what is wrong with your company and your site and the way you deliver that would have Google discount you? And let's fix those things. That to me is SEO. And I think that's probably going to get more, and it's already a lot, mostly there, but I think that's just going to continue to increase in terms of how people look at SEO.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, that's true, man. No, this is awesome. Thanks a lot, man. I think, it's crazy, man, because some of the things that you're saying, I know for someone like yourself who's been doing this for so long, it's kind of more simpler things, but for a lot of people, they don't know half of this stuff. And I think you're really going to inspire and help a lot of people. So this is great. I appreciate it. So final question, Erik. I always ask this to everyone. So for your story, everything that you've been through, all your successes, your struggles, obstacles, how would you define your story in just one word? And it can be your business, it can be life, I'll let you choose. But how do you just define your story in just one word?
Drive.
Nice.
And to explain in a few different, I like that word a lot because it's my own drive of like being driven, that side of things, but also drive in the sense of controlling, like I'm driving, not no one else is. So it's the lack of victim complex as well as being driven to build something. Like it's that combination that I think really did it.
That's great, man. So where can everyone find you? Your website and also social media?
Yeah, @Erik Huberman anywhere. It's easy.
Yeah. And man, like I said before, I really appreciate it, Erik. Thank you so much. I know you're a really busy guy. And I'm very thankful for you to be on the show, and I think a lot of people are going to learn from this and learn from you. So I'm very thankful, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you as well. Thanks for having me, man. This is fun.
Yeah, cool. Well, I appreciate everyone. Thanks again. And this is your host, Michael Giorgio from Tales from the Pros. And until next time, thanks, guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow our social media. There are links somewhere around here, but we really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the support, and I'm going to be giving you awesome content continuously, and we look forward to seeing you soon.